The call came during dinner, right as I was cutting into my son's chicken nuggets because he insisted they were too big to eat. My mother's voice trembled on the other end of the line, something I hadn't heard since Dad passed. "Evie, sweetheart, I need you to come over tonight. It's important. I'm Evelyn Callahan, but everyone calls me Evie." At 39, I thought I'd seen every variation of family emergency possible, but something in Mom's voice made my stomach twist. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay? Please come. Your brother's here. He has news." "Ryan." Of course. My little brother had a talent for turning our lives upside down every few months. I glanced at my husband David, who was already nodding. He knew that look on my face. "We'll be there in 30 minutes, I promised, watching Sophie push her broccoli around her plate. "Should I bring the kids?" "No, better not," Mom said quietly. That's when I knew it was bad. The drive to Mom's house felt longer than usual. David kept squeezing my hand at red lights, probably trying to keep me from spiraling into worst-case scenarios. Last time Ryan had news, he'd lost his job and needed to crash on Mom's couch for just a few weeks. That turned into 6 months. When we pulled into Mom's driveway, I noticed an unfamiliar pink Volkswagen Beetle parked out front. Through the living room window, I could see Ryan pacing, his hands moving animatedly as he talked to someone I couldn't quite make out. "Whatever it is," David said, "we'll handle it together." I nodded, but that knot in my stomach only tightened as we walked to the door. Mom opened it before we could knock, her face pale and pinched. She hugged me too tight, whispering, "Just try to be understanding." The living room fell silent as we entered. Ryan stood there, looking both terrified and excited, a combination I'd learned to dread. Next to him sat a young woman I'd never seen before, her hand resting protectively over a slightly swollen belly. "Evie." Ryan's voice cracked slightly. "I want you to meet Chloe, my fiancée." The room started spinning slightly. "Fiancée?" Ryan hadn't mentioned dating anyone, let alone getting engaged. "And that belly?" "We're having a baby," Chloe announced, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "And we're moving in with Margaret until we get on our feet. Isn't that wonderful?" I felt David's hand steady me as Mom sank into her favorite armchair, looking about 10 years older than she had this morning. And somehow, I knew this was just the beginning of our troubles. It took exactly 3 days for my mother's house to transform into what looked like a tornado had swept through a thrift store. Chloe's belongings seemed to multiply overnight, spreading across every surface like an invasive species. I stood in the doorway of what used to be Dad's study, now a makeshift storage room for shopping bags and half-unpacked boxes. "Mom's not sleeping," David said quietly behind me, holding 2 cups of coffee. He'd insisted on coming with me for our usual Sunday visit. "Have you noticed the circles under her eyes?" I had. Mom was trying to hide it, but the strain was showing. When I found her in the kitchen, she was scrubbing already clean dishes, her shoulders tense. "Everything okay, Mom?" "Of course, sweetheart." Her smile wavered. "Chloe's just particular about how things are done. Did you know she's redecorating the guest room? She says the wallpaper is depressing." The wallpaper Dad had picked out. I bit my tongue. From upstairs came the sound of Chloe's voice, sharp and clear. "Ryan, baby, could you ask your mom where she keeps her good jewelry? I want to show you something." My stomach clenched. Mom's hands stilled in the soapy water. "I'll handle it," I said, already heading upstairs. I found Chloe in Mom's bedroom, rifling through drawers while Ryan lounged on the bed, scrolling through his phone. "Oh, hi, Evie." Chloe's smile was sugar-sweet. "Just looking for inspiration. Margaret mentioned she had some beautiful vintage pieces, and since I'm going to be family, those drawers are private." I cut in, watching her perfectly manicured hands hover near Mom's jewelry box. "And it's Mom or Mother to you, not Margaret." "Don't start, Evie," Ryan sighed, not looking up. "Chloe's just trying to bond. By going through Mom's personal things? While she's downstairs washing your dishes." Chloe's expression hardened. "You know what your problem is, Evie? You think you're the only one who knows what's best for this family. But guess what? You're not in charge here." "No, but I care about my mother's well-being. When's the last time either of you asked how she's doing?" "We're giving her a grandchild," Chloe snapped, one hand protectively over her belly. "That's more than you've done lately." The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan finally looked up, his face pale. "Chloe, that's enough." But I'd seen it, the flash of satisfaction in her eyes when she'd said it. This wasn't about bonding or family. This was about power. "You're right," I said quietly. "I'm not in charge. But this isn't over." As I left, I heard Chloe's light laugh. Your sister really needs to lighten up, baby. Stress isn't good for anyone, especially at her age. I closed my hands into fists, already planning my next move. This woman had no idea who she was dealing with. The credit card statement sat on my kitchen table like a bomb waiting to explode. Mom had called in tears, asking if I could help her make sense of her bills. Now I understood why. Scattered across the pages were charges I knew Mom would never make. Designer boutiques, high-end spa treatments, and something called luxury baby essentials. My hands shook as I dialed Mom's number. Before I could say anything, she whispered, "I didn't want to cause trouble, Evie. Chloe said she'd pay it back. How much has she spent?" The silence stretched. Almost $12,000. I grabbed my keys, but David caught my arm. "Think this through," he warned. "If you go over there angry, she's stealing from our mother, David. What am I supposed to do?" The mail truck pulled up outside, and through the window, I watched our carrier stuff several envelopes into our box. Something made me walk out to check it. Among our bills was a letter addressed to Ryan at Mom's house, marked urgent, final notice from a collection agency. When I arrived at Mom's, I found Ryan alone in the garage, half-heartedly sorting through boxes. His eyes landed on the letter in my hand. "That's private," he said quickly. "Like Mom's credit card is private?" His face fell. "What are you talking about?" I thrust Mom's statement at him. He scanned it, color draining from his face. "This has to be a mistake. Chloe wouldn't." "Wouldn't what?" Chloe appeared in the doorway, her pregnancy now more visible under a new designer dress. "Oh, are we having a family meeting? Did you use Mom's credit card without permission?" Chloe's smile didn't waver. "Margaret gave me her card for baby expenses. We're family now, remember? $12,000 worth? The baby needs parents who aren't thieves," I snapped, turning to Ryan. "And what's this collection notice about?" "More secrets." Ryan's shoulders slumped. "I owe some people money. From before. I thought I could figure it out before." "Before what? Before they came looking? Before Mom had to bail you out again?" "You don't understand," he said, voice cracking. "I'm going to be a father. I need to fix this. Then start by being honest. Mom's health is suffering, she's drowning in debt that isn't hers, and you're hiding from collection agencies in her house. At least he's trying." Chloe stepped between us. "Unlike some people, Ryan actually wants this baby. Unlike you, who couldn't even." Ryan grabbed her arm. "Stop. Please." I saw tears in his eyes, real fear. For the first time, I wondered if my brother was as trapped as Mom was. "We need to talk," I said quietly. "All of us. No more secrets." But Chloe was already pulling Ryan away, whispering in his ear, and I knew this was far from over. I found Mom sitting in Dad's old armchair, clutching something in her hands. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile than I'd ever seen her. The house was quiet. Ryan and Chloe had gone to yet another doctor's appointment in their new car, bought with who knows whose money. "Mom!" I touched her shoulder gently. "What's wrong?" She opened her hands to reveal Dad's pocket watch, its gold surface dulled with age. "I found this while cleaning. Your father always said." Her voice broke. "He said to keep it safe for when Ryan grew up enough to appreciate it." The watch had been Dad's pride and joy, passed down through 3 generations. Now it sat there like an accusation of all our failures. "I got a call from Dr. Chin today," Mom said quietly, still staring at the watch. Her next words made my blood run cold. "My blood pressure is through the roof. He wants me in the hospital for observation." "What? Why didn't you call me right away?" "Because I knew what you'd say." She finally looked up, her eyes tired but determined. "That I need to stop enabling them. That I'm letting them take advantage. But Evie, he's my son. And that baby." A door slammed downstairs, followed by Chloe's laugh and the rustle of shopping bags. Mom quickly wiped her eyes. "Don't tell them about the hospital," she whispered. "Please. I don't want to worry anyone." "Mom, this has to stop. You're literally making yourself sick." "Margaret," Chloe's voice carried upstairs. "We got the most adorable nursery furniture. Could you come look at the catalog? We just need your signature on a few things." Mom stood up, smoothing her shirt with shaking hands. But before she could move, I grabbed the watch and blocked the doorway. "No more signatures," I said firmly. "No more catalogs. No more pretending everything's fine while they bleed you dry. Evie, please. Dad wouldn't want this." "You know he wouldn't." Footsteps on the stairs. Ryan appeared first, then Chloe, both freezing when they saw my expression. "What's going on?" Ryan asked, his eyes falling to the watch in my hand. Something flickered across his face, shame, maybe, or recognition. "Mom's going to the hospital," I said, ignoring her small sound of protest. Her blood pressure's dangerously high, and you two are going to listen very carefully to what happens next. Hospital? Chloe stepped forward, one hand on her belly. But who's going to help us with the nursery? What you need, I cut in, is to grow up. Both of you. Because this ends now, or I swear to God, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you've been doing to this family. The watch felt heavy in my hand, like Dad's judgment weighing down on all of us. And for once, Ryan didn't look away. The hospital corridor seemed endless as I paced outside Mom's room. They'd admitted her after her blood pressure spiked dangerously high during what should have been a routine checkup. David sat nearby, fielding calls from family while I waited for Ryan and Chloe to show up. 3 hours and counting. A nurse emerged from Mom's room. She's asking for Ryan again. I checked my phone, no response to my 5 messages. He's on his way. I lied, the words tasting bitter. That's when I saw him. Not Ryan, but Marcus Chun, Ryan's old college roommate, hurrying down the hall with a worried expression. He stopped short when he saw me. Evie? I was looking for Ryan. He's not answering his phone. Join the club. What's going on? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Look, I probably shouldn't be here, but those people Ryan owes money to? They're not exactly patient types. They came by my place looking for him. My stomach dropped. What kind of people? The kind who break things. And people. He handed me a crumpled envelope. Found this in my mailbox. It's addressed to Ryan, but inside was a single photo, Ryan and Chloe at a casino, dated 3 days ago. While Mom lay in a hospital bed, they were gambling. Mrs. Callahan? A doctor appeared, clipboard in hand. We need to discuss your mother's condition. Her heart. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Sorry, can't make it. Chloe not feeling well. Handle it for me? Something inside me snapped. I thrust the casino photo at David and headed for the parking lot, ignoring his calls to wait. I knew exactly where they'd be. That pink Volkswagen was impossible to miss in Mom's driveway. I found them in the kitchen. Chloe was painting her nails while Ryan sorted through Mom's mail. The hospital called. Chloe said without looking up. Everything okay? No, I said quietly. Nothing is okay. Mom's heart is failing, there are loan sharks looking for Ryan, and you're sitting here painting your nails with money you stole from her. Ryan's head snapped up. Loan sharks? How did you? Marcus came to the hospital. The hospital where our mother is fighting for her life while you two hit the casino. We needed money to pay them off, Ryan stammered. If we won enough. Get out. My voice shook. Both of you. Get out of this house before I call the police. You wouldn't, Chloe sneered, one hand on her belly. Not with the baby. Try me. Because right now, I'm thinking that baby might be better off without either of you. The silence that followed was deafening. And in that moment, watching the fear finally register on their faces, I realized I meant every word. The hospital conference room felt too small for all the anger it contained. Ryan sat across from me, his face pale and drawn, while Chloe paced near the window. David stood by the door like a sentinel, making sure no one left until we sorted this mess out. The police are already investigating the credit card fraud, I said, laying out papers on the table. But I'm willing to talk them down if you both agree to some conditions. Conditions? Chloe's laugh was sharp. You're not in charge here, Evie. You can't. Mom's awake, I cut in. And she's given me power of attorney. So yes, I am in charge. Ryan's head snapped up. She what? She signed the papers this morning. After I showed her the casino photo. After I explained about the loan sharks. You had no right, he whispered. Someone had to protect her from you too. Chloe stopped pacing. Fine. What are your precious conditions? First, you both get jobs. Real ones. Second, you move out of Mom's house. Third, a knock at the door interrupted me. A nurse poked her head in. Mrs. Callahan? Your mother's asking for you. Her blood pressure's spiking again. I stood, but Chloe blocked my path. We're not done here. You don't get to dictate our lives just because. Move, I said quietly. Or I swear to God I'll. You'll what? She stepped closer, one hand protectively over her belly. Hit a pregnant woman? Call the cops? Go ahead. But remember, if we go down, your precious mother goes down too. Her name's on everything. The room went silent. Ryan looked between us, conflict written across his face. You wouldn't, I said, but my voice shook. Try me. Chloe smiled, and for the first time, I saw something truly dangerous in her eyes. We can drag this out in court. Every detail about Margaret's declining mental state, her poor financial decisions, her inability to say no to her children. How long do you think she'll last under that kind of stress? My hands trembled. She had us cornered and she knew it. Mom would never survive a lengthy court battle. Ryan. I turned to my brother, pleading. Please, don't let her do this. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, Evie. I can't. We need. Another knock. Mrs. Callahan? Your mother's asking for you. It's urgent. I pushed past Chloe, my vision blurring with tears of rage and helplessness. At the door, I turned back one last time. You win, I said quietly. But remember something. That baby you're using as a shield? Someday, they'll see you both for exactly what you are. Chloe's smile never wavered. Maybe. But by then, it'll be too late for any of you to do anything about it. I found Ryan alone in the hospital chapel at midnight, his head in his hands. The room smelled of stale coffee and desperation. Mom's condition had stabilized, but the doctor's words hung heavy in the air. She needs peace and quiet to recover. Chloe's gone, Ryan said without looking up. My steps echoed as I approached. What do you mean, gone? She took the car. And Mom's jewelry. Left a note saying she'd contact me about the baby. His voice cracked. Said she never wanted this life anyway. I should have felt triumph. Instead, watching my little brother break apart, I felt nothing but exhaustion. The loan sharks, he continued. They weren't after me. They were after her. She's done this before to other families. Gets pregnant, moves in, bleeds them dry. Ryan. I knew. He finally looked up, tears streaming down his face. I knew something wasn't right, but I was so scared of being alone again. Of failing. Like Dad said I would. The chapel door creaked open. We both turned to see a man standing there, older and grayer than I remembered, but unmistakable. Dad! Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. Our father stepped into the light. Margaret's nurse called me. Said things had gotten bad. Why are you here? I demanded, stepping between him and Ryan. You lost the right to be here when you walked out. Because I was wrong, Dad said quietly. About everything. Especially about you, Ryan. Ryan stood, swaying slightly. You said I'd never amount to anything. That I'd just drag everyone down with me. I know. And look what that did to you. To all of us. I proved you right, didn't I? Ryan laughed bitterly. Lost everything. Hurt everyone. Just like you said. No. I grabbed Ryan's arm. You made mistakes. We all did. But you're here now, facing it. That's more than some people ever do. Dad took a step forward. Your sister's right. I ran away from my mistakes. You're standing here facing yours. It's too late, Ryan whispered. Mom's sick, Chloe's gone, the baby. It's not too late, I said firmly. But you have to choose, Ryan. Right now. Are you going to run like Dad did? Or stay and fight? The silence stretched between us, heavy with 20 years of hurt and hope. Finally, Ryan straightened up, wiping his eyes. I want to fix this, he said. I don't know how, but I want to try. Then we'll figure it out together, I said, taking his hand. That's what family does. Dad turned to leave, understanding he wasn't part of this moment. But Ryan's voice stopped him. Wait, he called. Maybe we all need to learn how to fix things. 6 months later, I sat in Mom's garden, watching Ryan teach Lucas how to plant tomatoes. Mom rested in her favorite chair nearby, looking healthier than she had in years. The police had caught up with Chloe in Arizona. Apparently, we weren't her first target, just her last. The social worker called, David said, joining me with 2 cups of coffee. Chloe signed the papers. I nodded, watching Ryan's gentle patience with Lucas. Who would have thought my brother would find his calling teaching kids at the community center? Full custody? Yes. Ollie's officially coming home next week. The baby carrier sat empty beside Mom's chair, waiting. We'd all been taking turns caring for Ollie since Chloe abandoned him at a fire station 3 months ago. Even Dad helped, though his visits were still awkward, filled with careful conversations and cautious hope. Look what I found, Mom called, holding up an envelope. It was in your father's study, dated just before everything happened. Inside was a letter and a bank statement. My hands trembled as I read. My dear children, I've watched you both struggle. Ryan with his fears, Evie with her need to fix everything. I should have told you both. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to need help. I've set aside some money for both of you, but more importantly, I've set aside my pride. Whatever happens, remember that healing isn't about being right. It's about being there. Love, Mom. The bank statement showed 2 accounts, one for Ryan's fresh start, one for Ollie's future. You knew. I looked at Mom. About Chloe? About everything. I knew something wasn't right, she said quietly. But sometimes people need to find their own way to the truth. even if it hurts watching them get there. Ryan approached, dirt on his knees, Lucas proudly trailing behind him. The tomatoes are planted, though I can't promise they'll survive. That's okay, Mom smiled. Gardens take practice. And patience. Sophie appeared from the house, carrying a squirming Ollie. He's awake. Can I show him the flowers? As I watched my daughter carefully introduce her cousin to each bloom, I realized something. Revenge hadn't saved our family. Truth had. Painful, messy truth, followed by the harder work of rebuilding. Hey, Ryan touched my arm. Thank you for not giving up on me. That's what family does, I said, echoing words from that night in the chapel. We figure it out together. Mom reached for Dad's hand as he joined us, their fingers linking carefully, tentatively. Like the tomato plants, like all of us, testing new ground and hoping something good would grow. It wasn't perfect, but maybe that was exactly what we needed all along.